Okay, hello. So my name's Jack and I work in community safety, looking at how we can change people's behaviour and how we can understand people's behaviour. But I'm also a clinical psychologist and work in neuropsychology. So I like to study the brain and understand what is going on in the brain so we can change people's behaviour as part of that. So what we're going to do is talk about the psychology of change for the next 5 minutes. Now, change can be really positive and people can enjoy change and it can have very positive benefits to people. However, it can also be incredibly threatening. Now, that's pretty understandable because actually change is often ambiguous and we don't have a clue what's going to happen after that, and we can't quite understand necessarily what that means for us and how that will benefit us. And when something's ambiguous, what does it do? It creates huge amounts of anxiety, okay? And anxiety causes lots of behavioural problems. And what's sat behind that anxiety is something you probably all heard of, the fight or flight response, okay? And what the fight or flight response is it's not just a human thing, but an animalistic response that goes on in the brain that is about survival. It's about recognising threats as quick as the brain can do that and responding in a protective manner. Okay? It is engaging a really, really innate old part of the brain. So I have a brain prop here, and what you can see across all of it is the lobes of the brain there. But what sits right in the middle is your limbic system, or what I will call the midbrain. This is the oldest part of your brain that lots and lots of animals have, or all animals have. Okay? And within this sits a load of tiny lobes like the amygdala. Okay? And the amygdala is really, really, really important in the fight or flight response, because that is the bit that releases all the hormones into your body, preps your muscles to either stand there or fight, or get out of there, run away, or in some situations, rabbit in the headlights, freeze. Okay? Now this bit in your brain is very, very, very quick to react, the amygdala, and in fight or flight it is the key part of it. Okay? So what's going on is it's releasing all these hormones around the body, and it is making a decision before you can slow that down enough in that situation. And this is vital if you want to run away from a tiger or you want to stand and fight a tiger for whatever reason. However, in modern society, it might be really good if there's a bus coming at you, or if something is happening on a Friday night and there's a big fight and you need to get out of there. There's no surprise there. But where it can be pretty challenging is in changing organisations, because you might be faced with a change situation and you perceive that as really threatening and anxiety provoking. And what's happening is you're releasing hormones in fight or flight, okay, in that moment. And actually what also happens is you can build up associations with that change that continues to release fight or flight hormones and get that process going. And that can be quite problematic if you're at work experiencing high anxiety and high fight or flight responses to everything, you know. So if your manager walks in and they're the ones bringing change to you, you might get a sudden rush of hormones that changes your behaviour in that moment, and you might choose to be more argumentative. But actually we need to begin to notice what is going on with some of this, because we can control this in some ways, especially in change. We don't want to control it necessarily if a bus is coming. We want to let the innate part of our brain take over and get us out of there. But where we want to be able to control it is to recognise when it's having an effect on our brain. So, for instance, a really good example in Britain is, I'm sure some people watching this are afraid of spiders. Okay? Now, if you're in Australia, that's absolutely appropriate because the threat is enormous. But here in Britain, spiders don't really bite. And none of them are going to give you a venomous bite that is going to be a threat to your life or to someone's life around you. So actually the response there from your fight or flight system when you see a spider is disproportionate. And what you need to do is begin to bring in the part of the brain that makes us the humans we are today and puts us away from the other animals. And that is all the lobes that sit on top. So all these lobes that sit on top, all the cortices that are built up around your brain, they're the bits that sit above the limbic system, above the amygdala and the small innate parts of the brain, and they give us rational thought, they give us language, they give us our memory, our perception of everything, and they're the things that take us apart from other animals. So especially this is why we have such big foreheads, because our brain is packed in there, and compared to our body size, it is massive. Now what you need to do is engage these parts of your brain in these bits, in a situation where change is happening. Because if this bit becomes the dominant thing, every time change is mentioned, you will get a really, really strong anxiety, fight or flight response. Because you get motorways basically that could make this be the key thing in any situation. Now what you can do, especially in change, is begin to engage these by slowing the process down. Okay, and beginning to rationalise the process and understand it. The key to this is noticing your responses, your anxiety-based response to change or to something related to change or something associated with change. And actually begin to stop, notice, slow it down and understand why something is happening. Yeah, and maybe consider the alternative evidence for some of the positives around that and some of the benefits it might have for you, which then begins to break that system down of fight or flight in that situation. And you're able then to manage the anxiety of change through your day-to-day work, even if it's quite difficult change at work. So the key points are, fight or flight is a really old innate system that releases all these hormones into your body and is absolutely natural. Yeah, and in modern world, it still is really useful for us. However, as humans, we have all these extended brain, much bigger brain that allows us to bring in rational thought and allows us to understand situations greater. And that's quite important in change. Fight or flight doesn't need to be engaged throughout change. Actually, we can rationalise it, we can understand it, we can step back from change a little bit and begin to reduce our anxiety-based responses to that change and manage change more effectively for yourself or for your team. Okay? So that was a 5-minute introduction to the psychology of change. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me.